delivered his inaugural address, his thought-provoking ideas and words were so inspiring, really made us think. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, to this session. We are eagerly waiting to listen to your words.
Good afternoon to you all. Hope I am audible to you.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So in the morning inaugural session, we have came to know many of the issues which are related to the higher education in terms of trends, challenges, and as well as the issues. A brief gist which I have provided to you to think that what kind of issues we are coming across and what challenges we are facing in the higher education system. If we understand well, if we introspect them properly, definitely we can come out with solutions. So in my presentation, there are a lot of challenges. There are n number of challenges and there are a lot of trends as well, which we are experiencing nowadays. And in a nutshell, if I would like to say that there are few important challenges. We can categorize, classify those challenges under the heading these 5 components, like the accessibility, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. So all these aspects, whatever I have listed here, the challenges, they come under the purview of either one or the other component. Either it is related to accessibility, affordability, equity, or any other. So let's see one by one. The very first one, digitalization. So we are moving ahead the education system wherein we need to give the priority to the international students. We are not concentrating only the context where we are living, only the region where we are living, or the state where we are living. We need to move ahead and show to the world that our education system is beyond that purview, beyond that limit, beyond that scope. So how to do it actually? We need to develop the teaching methodologies, the learning outcomes, the curriculum, and the whole teaching learning process quality has to be improved in such a way that the whole world should move towards it. So that is one of the big challenge we are having nowadays. And Luda, who has rightly mentioned in 2015 that there are 5 important desirable outcomes of internationalization. The reason why we need to do internationalization is, the first one is, we have to produce the global citizens now. The second important thing, if we are producing the professionals, especially, those professionals need to update and acquire the skills to work in the global scenario, not related to just that particular area. So hence, the very important aspect of internationalization is producing the citizens to the global as well as professionals to the global market. Then second important desirable thing is appreciate the other's cultures. We know that we always love our locality, religion, region, caste, creed, and etc. etc. That is not enough. So what we need to develop is the sensitivity of understanding others' cultures, others' views, respecting the values of others in terms of their culture, their religion, or their views and attitudes. So that's the reason why, unless and until we appreciate others' cultures, we cannot say that our students are global level. So that's the second important thing. And the third important thing is we need to develop the knowledge economies. That is the prime important area of higher education. What knowledge economy we are producing? Are they able to sustain in the global market? Are they produce knowledge in the future generation? So that is also very important thing. And the issues we are having in the global level, like climate change is there, terrorism is there, nepotism, regionalism, and there are a lot of natural resources disputes between the states and countries. Can we address those things in higher education? So that has to be there with the help of internationalization. And the fifth important thing is competing as well as cooperating. We know that every country is competing with the other country. Every state is competing with the other state. Every institution is competing with the other institution. But it is also very essential to cooperate. Not just the competition, it's also the cooperation which matters. So these are the 5 important desirable outcomes of internationalization. Hence, it has become a very big challenge, not for one country, it is to the entire world, and it is for all institutions who are working in higher education sector. And the second important thing is curriculum. Curriculum is a very important means to transform the students. In what way we are developing our curriculum? Have we identified the changes which are taking place in the society, the changes and the needs which are expecting from the parents, expecting from the students' point of view, expecting from the country's point of view, and expectation from the world point of view? So those are all the important aspects we need to satisfy, we need to adopt in our curriculum. So that's what the demands of the society, demands of the country and the mankind. These things needed to be incorporated, and the curriculum has to be changed according to that, in tune with that. So there are few important lacunas we are having. Some of us may be the part of curriculum development committees or many meetings we might have attended. But the thing is, without considering the needs of the learners, needs of the society, we prepare the curriculum. Curriculum tells something and need is at the other end. We haven't matched at all. So that is one of the big lacuna we are having, and we haven't considered the contemporary requirements also. Even in the teacher education, there are a lot of changes are taking place in the school education system. Have we changed our curriculum then? Baiju is a very important app. Baiju is playing a very important role in students' learning ability. Have we thought of in teacher education what needed to be done in the teacher education so that our prospective teachers would develop their own apps? This is just an example I am telling you. So, according to the requirements, we need to change, but it is lacking in India. And even there is a lack of diversity of the subjects also. We are in a monotonous manner, we are all learning. We are all teaching, actually. That multi-dimensional approach is not being applied in the teaching learning processes or in the curriculum setup. So that is also one of the big problems we have. And there is no flexibility at all to go across the streams to learn the things. But recently NDP has rightly mentioned it that there would be multidisciplinary approach of teaching, learning as well as taking the courses. So that would be a big boon for Indian education system, but till today we haven't adopted it. And the last important element or the lacuna is considering the local and global issues or the needs. Whether our curriculum is promising to fill the gaps of global needs as well as the local needs. So these are the important lacunas which we understand properly, and wherever we get an opportunity to update the curriculum or frame the curriculum, try to consider these things in any of the higher education area. And there are 4 important components which we can consider. How would be the curriculum done? Yes, it should be output oriented, it should be learning centered, it should be internationally coordinated so that the content and issues can be aligned in an international manner. And the 4th important is validated through quality assurance. There must be some assurance agencies who can qualitatively assess the curriculum and say that this is the best curriculum. But till today we don't have any such curriculum assessment officers or the conditions. So India needs to adopt it. This is also one of the big challenges. Otherwise, the international market will not accept you. Mysore University B.Ed curriculum ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೇ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಮೆರಿಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೋ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕಲಿಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ assured in international manner. So these are the important things we can consider. And the third important challenge we are having is student employability. Many people think that employability is nothing but getting a job. but it is not so. The international market, the administrators and the big tycoon says that actually it is the ability rather than job. First develop the ability to work in the workforce. What kind of abilities you can train, you can develop among the students is the big important thing. It's not just getting a job. But what we are doing, we are just considering the number of jobs our alumni are getting. So that ratio is only being considered, hence we are lagging behind. This is what required. Even you take the big examples of industries like IBM, Penguin Random House, Apple, Google. These companies, they pay huge salaries, but not considering just marks card. They are considering the competencies of the individuals rather than marks cards. So hence, our education system need to be changed and tuned according to that. What ability we can develop among the next generation students. And there are two important approaches which we can apply to solve that problem. One is employment-centered approach, wherein only the institutions will be evaluated based on the graduate employment rates. That's what we are doing now. We only count the number of students who have enrolled, employed. But this is not enough actually. Even not in India, even many of the countries you can take. Like European Union countries are there, Belgium, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Estonia, Ireland, Greece. Lot of countries are considering the same thing. And there is another approach, that is competence-based centered approach, wherein only competence is being assessed, not just the job. So, both these two approaches are complementary and exist in parallel. Don't think that they are a separate one. So, it's our responsibility to adopt both kinds of approaches so that we can solve the problem of employability as well. And the fourth important challenge we are having is quality of teaching and learning. It's the biggest challenge, I would say. It's very difficult to assess and very difficult to prove also. You may be a very good teacher in your classroom, but very difficult to prove it that you are a good teacher. And what is expected, the whole world is behind this accountability. You are saying that you are teaching 16 hours in the classroom, but people want to know it, what you taught, how you taught. Was it useful to the students? What kind of accountability you are giving? And how you prove that you are good? ಬರೀ 16 ಗಂಟೆ 14 ಗಂಟೆ 12 ಗಂಟೆ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ನಾನು 30 ವರ್ಷ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದೆ 40 ವರ್ಷ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ದ ಡೇಸ್ ಆರ್ ಗಾನ್ ನೌ. ಏನು ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ, ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅನ್ನೋದು. Unless and until students say that the teacher has taught, teacher cannot claim that he has or she has taught something. This is the error. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ನೀವು ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಂತ ತಿಳಿದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಅಲ್ಲ. Otherwise it's a waste. So that accountability is required. And what is required? Evidence in concrete. Hence every association or organization is asking you to upload your PPT, make a video of your presentation, and keep the records of your lesson plans, and keep the record of timetable, how many sessions you handled with a particular thing. So that concrete evidence is required, and even it should be observable and measurable. That's what we teach in the teaching learning process. In the teacher training, that's what we teach. Teaching can be observed and it can be measured as well. So this is what required to say that we can improve in the teaching learning processes. There are three important factors which come into the picture to prove that our teaching learning process is very qualitative. What to do or how to do? The first important factor is inclusive learning through equity and diversity. What kind of education system wherein we are providing opportunity equally to all the stakeholders is the first important criteria. That equity will also relate to the diversity. We know that the society is diverse in its nature, isn't it? It's very complex because every individual socio-economic status differs. And they may be different in terms of gender, nationality, age, and many aspects. And what kind of preference we have provided to make them equally in giving the quality education is important now. CBSE ಶಾಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶ್ರೀಮಂತರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಬಂದು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೌದಾ? ICSE ಶಾಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ IAS ಆಫೀಸರ್ಸು ಟಾಪ್ ಆಫೀಸರ್ಸ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ಅದು ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ. Equity is something, it should have a real representation of the society. ಎಲ್ಲ ಥರದ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಕೂರಿಸಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್ ನೌ. ಸೊ segregation will lead to non-diversity. It's not lead to diversity. So ಹಾಗಾಗಿ that equality and diversity must be addressed in the teaching learning process. That's one thing. And not only the students, even diversity must be related to teachers also. ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುವಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ವೆರೈಟಿ ಟೀಚರ್ಗಳು ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಆವಾಗ ಈಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್. ಮೇಲೂ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಆಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ಸ್, ಆಲ್ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯನ್ ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ಸ್, ಆಲ್ ಲೊಕ್ಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್. ಅಂಟಿಲ್ ಟುಡೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಜೆಂಡರ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. We don't have transgender teachers in the classrooms. Then how can we develop that kind of a sensitivity among learners? So these are all the aspects which we need to handle. And the second important element is learning through equality of opportunities, which means there are varieties of individuals. Individuals having different requirements. Some may listen and learn. Some may view and learn. Styles of learning differs from individual to individual. Some may discuss and learn. Some may observe and learn. These are all the styles of learning. Have you addressed these things in the classroom, in the higher education sector? Is important element. That's what the quality is. How best we handle and we approach all varieties of learners in the classroom. And some learners are having disability also. Disabled learners are also there. And some are no disability. Have you compiled a group of students wherein both kind of learners are there? No? Till today we haven't made that effort. So these are the individual attention giving arrangements must be made in the higher education sector. And the third important thing is facilitators of learning. Who are the facilitators of learning? All are facilitators of learning. These are the stakeholders like administrators, staff, students, and policy makers, curriculum developers, and even the common people. They should sit together and frame good things, good plans for all the students. So that is what required actually. The harmonious partnership is the need of the hour. So wherever we plan something, wherever we look into the changes, we need to take the ideas of all those stakeholders. It is a missing thing till today in India. And this is what the required element of the world now. We need to develop the learners who can learn throughout their life. That's what the lifelong learning is. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಕಲಿಸುವಂಥದ್ದು ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ that should be a lifelong process. And what is expected the world now? These are the things actually. See, cognitive ability is just 15%. ಮೆಂಟಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಬರೀ 15% ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಸರ್ವೈವ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ವರ್ಲ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ 17%. The world is expecting something different. Computers, problem solving skills 36%. So different skills and attributes are required from students' point of view. So which means it is not just the classroom activities or the memorizing things which come into the picture which will benefit the next generation. They require something more. Debatable skills are required, analytical skills are required, computer skills are required. So a lot of skills needed to be uploaded and imbibed among the learners. So that is also one of the elements of quality teaching learning. Hope I am not boring you. Following? Okay, fine. Then the very important aspect of higher education is research. It is the quality research, not just research. We know that actually, a lot of the times, students will come to the guide to ask which problem I have to take. This is the common tendency of Indian students. They won't go to the guide with the preparation or selecting any areas. They ask the guide that which area I have to choose. So if the case is so, how to transmit that particular knowledge to the next generation then? What is the use of that kind of a research? If it is not at all useful for the society, if it is not at all useful for the field. A research finding must help in any one of the aspects. Either it should help and there are a lot of instances we can come across even after completion of PhDs. You ask the candidate what was the theme of his research or her research. Many of the candidates are unable to answer their titles. The reality I am giving you actually. And they don't know how to publish papers. UGC has made it mandatory to publish papers. And they don't know how to use the SPSS. They don't know how to develop the tools. What statistical techniques would be useful in the research. The reason why I am telling you is, research is a basic and important element of higher education. You cannot detach teaching with the research. A good teacher is a good researcher. But most of the time, teachers teach in the classroom without doing research, or at least without citing the research findings. So unless and until we combine that quality of the researchers or the findings, if you are failed to use it in solving the problems, it's a waste. And the major issues which I am highlighting here is inadequate focus on research in most of the higher education institutions. And second important thing, insufficient resources also. Many of the research centers are there. It is having lack of resources to do the research work. And the quality faculty also is missing in the research centers. ಯಾರೋ ಗೈಡ್ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾರಿಗೋ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗಿ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಗೈಡ್ಗಳು ಇವತ್ತು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಥೀಸಿಸ್ ನೋಡೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಏನು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಈ ಥರ ಗೈಡ್ಗಳಿದ್ದಾಗ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಯೂಸ್? PhDಗಳು ನಂಬರ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಗೈಡ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈವನ್ ದ ಫೆಲೋಶಿಪ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಫ್ಯೂ. ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಈಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಡ್ಯೂರೇಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್. ದ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೆಬಿಲಿಟಿ. ಹಣನೂ ಬೇಕು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮೋರ್ ಫೆಲೋಶಿಪ್ಸ್ ಟು ದ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೀಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್, ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ more good researchers in the higher education. And if you take the examples of citations and patents, research and ತಕ್ಷಣ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಬರ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತು ನೀವು ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಗಿ ಬರೀ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಡೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸಾಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇನಫ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್. You must be popular in the internet also. If somebody types your name in the internet or in the Google means it should tell about you, who you are, what you are doing, what is your contribution to the world. It may be in terms of your PPT, it may be in terms of your work, your articles or thesis or anything. So that is what required. So then you can expect citations. Why people should cite you? ಅಮೇರಿಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋಂಥವ್ರು ನನಗೆ ಸೈಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಏನಾರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾನೆ ಸೈಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಶುಡ್ ಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮೈ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ದಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಸೈಟೇಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ಮಿಸ್ಸಿಂಗ್. So try to present your views in any of the forms, either PPT or video or journal or magazine, or you can create your own blogs also. But say that you are in the world. You ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡೋದಕ್ಕೂ ನೀವು ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕೀಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸೈಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳು ನೀವು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಯು ಸೈಟ್ ಅದರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅದರ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವಿಲ್ ಸೈಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಬಾರಿ IQSC ಇಂದ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸೈಟೇಷನ್ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, H ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, I10 ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ 1 ಡೇಸ್ ಅಫೇರ್. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಇಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಸ್ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇವತ್ತು ಬರೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 10 ವರ್ಷ 5 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸೈಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಸಿಗ್ತವೆ. ಅಥವಾ ತುಂಬ ರೆಪ್ಯೂಟೆಡ್ ಜರ್ನಲಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಗಿರುವಂಥ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಮೋರ್ ಸೈಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಕ್ವಿಕ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಡ್ at present. And patents, India is producing very less patents. Though we stand at the 3rd rank in the world, 3rd biggest higher education sector is India, but patents are very less. See, in 2017 actually China produced more patents than US, but recently USA has produced more. That is the competition in the global market. And the important factor which I had already highlighted, yes, political interference in all aspects of higher education. You go to any university, you go to any college, you find these experiences. Even selection of vice chancellor, there is a political interference. Selection of registrar, political interference. Appointments, political interference. PhD seat allotment, political interference. Getting the honorary degrees, political interference. And who to run the show, it again decided by the political interference. And the very important thing is most of the institutions are running by themselves. ಇದು ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿ. ನಾನು ಬರೀ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದಾಗ ಸಮಾಜದ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. We need to look into these factors also. Every political leader in one or other way, they are connected with the higher education sector. They make their own rules. They release the funds to the private bodies wherever and however they want, and they will having the power of curbing the government institutions also, because they are at the supreme level. So what to do then actually? There must be voice from teachers. There must be voice from underprivileged people to protect the government institutions, to look into the infrastructure, to release more funds. Even the GDP is also very less. You may be knowing it actually. India is spending just 3% GDP on higher education, whereas the world's best education sector are investing more than 6 to 8%. So the investment is also very important. So political factor needed to be controlled. Or how to resolve it, that we have to make a suitable solution to it. And the moral issues, as the father was highlighting it especially, as the science and technology grows actually, there is a deterioration of values, moral aspects. And now the generation of students, they are just thinking of job. Just thinking of job. They want the good packages, that's all. Wherever, however they want, they will work. No issues at all. And the brain drain is also very important. Though our higher education system is very good, but after completion of the courses, they go to the west to earn, and they won't come back. This is also a big problem. And the moral and value aspects which are deteriorating because of the cybercrime, bullying, and data theft is increasing day by day. Increasing day by day. And all these things will be done by the intellectual students. ಯಾರು ತುಂಬ ಜಾಣರಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅವರೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮು ಜಾಣತನ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಪ್ಯಾಟರ್ನ್ ಬೆಳೆಸಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಕೂಡ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಇದೆ. ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋರು ಓದದೇ ಇರೋರಲ್ಲ, ಓದ್ದವರೇ. ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಹಾಳಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಟ್ಸ್. So that is also one of the challenges. And corruption in education, no need to tell. We are all part of it. And we are already accepted it. ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ತಪ್ಪು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋಂಗೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರೇ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಫೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಫಾಲೋಯಿಂಗ್. ಯಾವ ಲೆವೆಲ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳು ಬಂದಿವೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿಸಲ್ಲ. ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಸ್ಯಾಲ್ರಿ ತೋರಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಅಕ್ವಿಟೆನ್ಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಕೊಡೋದ್ರ ಸ್ಯಾಲ್ರಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ. ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ, ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಬರೀ ಹಣದ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ. Think that there are 16 hours allotted to you, means you need to work 16 hours. If you are doing 15 hours, it is also a corruption. It's also corruption. Corruption ಅಂದರೆ ಬರೀ ಹಣ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅಲಾಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಸೆಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕರಪ್ಷನ್. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮನಿ ಈಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್. ನಾವು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹಣ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ತಂದು ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮನಿಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ವೈಟ್. When the system is like that, how can you improve? How can you think of the changes? So this is also one of the big challenge we are having. Not only in India, it's there in every country. And Transparency International anta one association ide. Just open this in a Google. You can also be the member of this actually, wherein you can raise your voices. You can support the issues as well as you can raise the voices. Many teachers and many lawyers and doctors are part of it. I am also a member in that. Next, privatizations. India is having 1043 universities, and about 45% of the universities are owned by private sector. Of course, they are contributing. I am not saying that it's bad. Privatization is required, but this is a very important thing. The culture of transparency and social responsibility need to be developed. What is the social responsibility of those private institutions? Are they just working for earning money? Or any special provisions are being provided to the special group who are underprivileged? Any special scholarships are being given? Any free seats are being given? Very less. So, creating that inclusive setup is also very important, irrespective of the class, creed, caste, gender, locality, region and religion. ಯಾರ್ಯಾರ ಜಾತಿ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳಿದೆಯೋ ಅವರವರೇ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ. ಒಪ್ಪೋಣ, ಯಾವ ಜಾತಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಎರಡು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ ವಿಚ್ ವಿ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್, then what inclusivity it has having actually. So that is the role of privatization. Then second one, financing. As I told, there must be 6% of GDP at least. The Kothari Commission has rightly mentioned way back in 1964-66 that India need to give or provide at least 6% of that GDP to the development of education. At least 2% for primary education, 2% for secondary education and 2% for higher education. But in total, we are using only or investing 3% of the GDP till today. ನಿಮಗೆ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, India is spending 53,000 crore on higher education. ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕಿದೆ ಸ್ಟಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಬಜೆಟಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಡೂ ಯು ನೋ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ? 1,20,000 crore rupees has been spent on just tuition fee. ಭಾರತೀಯ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಬೇರೆ ದೇಶಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ 1,20,000 ಕೋಟಿ ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬರೀ ಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಫೀ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಅದರ ಅರ್ಧದಷ್ಟು ನಾವು ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಬಜೆಟನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ಹೌ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್? ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ಬಿಗ್ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್. ಸೊ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಯಾನ್ಷನ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಸಿ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್. The state private universities, and there are a lot of varieties of universities also. And as I rightly mentioned in the inaugural letters that there must be at least 1,500 universities and each district must have at least one university. At least one university. ಅದು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಿದೆ. And there is a regional imbalance also. Bangalore is the city which is having highest number of higher education institutions of the country. ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಹಬ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ The enrollment ratio is also just 30%. And NEP has suggested that, and it is expecting that at least 50% of the enrollment till 2030. And how to make access to the wider participation? Yes, there are a few techniques. Like social composition is very much required. Consider all the social components or the composition of individuals in the higher education. Make education as right to admission. What kind of right we have given to the students to get the admission, and there must be bridging programs and recognition of prior learning in the higher education, guidance to prospective students at the PU level, what kind of opportunities they will be having in the higher education, that guidance needed to be given so that they can motivate themselves and come to the higher education, and even encouraging or discouraging the entry to higher education. This is what the age is. The median age of higher education in different countries differs. Like 20 years in Belgium, France and Ireland, 26 years in Iceland, and whereas India it is 18 years. So policy also making lot of challenges to the students to enter into the higher education sector. And there must be incentives also. India is producing that, actually giving the aids to the institutions so that all category students can be accommodated in the institution. So that's a big important thing. And even few countries like United Kingdom and Ireland, they are also providing such incentives. So ಭಾರತದಾಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ತರದ ಅಪಾರ್ಚುನಿಟಿಗಳು ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ಗಳು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇವೆ. ಅದರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಟು ದ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಟು ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಶಿಪ್ಸ್. And even the European countries are also providing such incentives. And the flexibility of mode, which we are talking about, not just the offline classes. Tomorrow we may be having online classes also, and every teacher needed to be prepared oneself to teach in online mode. BEd students ಗಳಿಗೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿಕೊಡಲೇಬೇಕು ನಾವು. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾವು ಬರೀ ಚಾಕ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯಾರೂ ಕರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗೆ. ನೀವು ಸ್ಮಾರ್ಟ್ ಬೋರ್ಡು ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಆನ್ಲೈನಲ್ಲಿ ಆ್ಯಪ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಟೀಚ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. You need to know how to prepare the PowerPoint presentation also. So this is what is required. Whether it is full time or part time. UGC has made it mandatory now recently that there must be 40 hours of part time course in the UG and PG courses. And NEP has also recommended it actually. If you take the SWAYAM courses, you can have 40% of the online courses, online subjects you can learn. So that credit will also be included in the master. So slowly we are moving from full time to part time, offline to online, and hence every higher education institution need to focus on distance learning, e-learning and blended learning. ಮುಂದಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು 2 ವರ್ಷ 4 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗಳು ಬರೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ BEd ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಪೇಪರ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ 3 ಪೇಪರು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಕಲಿಬೋದು, 2 ಪೇಪರ್ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಕಲಿಬೋದು. ಅಲ್ಲ 3 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಬರ್ಬೋದು, 1 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರು ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಈಸ್, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್ ಈಸ್. ಹಾಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ನಾವು ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್. Are we able to provide you all the data, all the information which is needed in the online platform is a big challenge, because we are slowly moving towards that direction. And infrastructure, ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳೋದು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. 2 ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಒಂದೇ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಅಂತ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು ನಾವು ಅಲ್ವಾ. Same infrastructure, same library, of course sharing will be there, but not to all courses. Even we show same teachers to different courses also. So infrastructure plays a very important role in the learning process. Infrastructure illandre kaliyake kalsokke agalla. So ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದು ಬಹಳ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ actually. And even public sector ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬಾ infrastructure problems ಗಳಿವೆ. Still many of the universities may not be having UPS facility. ಭಾಳ ಉತ್ಪ್ರೇಕ್ಷೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ್ರೇಷನ್ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಪವರ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟಿ ಇನ್ನೂ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. UPS ಇರಲ್ಲ, LCD ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಇದ್ರೂ ಬಳಸಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಅದೊಂಥರ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಬಿಗ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತವೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಜೆರಾಕ್ಸ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಅಂಗಡಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ a student gets when he or she enters into the education institution. So infrastructure plays a very important role. This is the reality of India. ಯಾಕೆ ನಾನು ಹೀಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, if you go through the ICA report of 2019-20, it will tell you exactly what infrastructure we are having in this country. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ 1043 ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸ್ಗಳಿವೆ ಅಂತ, ಮತ್ತು 40,000 ಕಾಲೇಜಸ್ ಇಂದ ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ. ನೋವೇರ್ ಯು ಫೈಂಡ್ 100%, 100% ಯಾವ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರು ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ನೀದರ್ ಪ್ಲೇ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್, ಆಡಿಟೋರಿಯಂ, ಥಿಯೇಟರ್, ಲೈಬ್ರರಿ, ಲ್ಯಾಬೊರೇಟರಿ, ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಯಾವುದರಲ್ಲೂ 100% ಇಲ್ಲ ಯಾವುದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ ಬಿಗ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಮಿಷನ್ ICT ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲ ICT ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ವೈಫೈ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟಿ ನೋಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. ಕನೆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ 55%, 23%, 23%. Our institutions will not be having simple internet facility in terms of LAN or Wi-Fi. So these are the big challenges, and many of you may also be knowing that we don't have ramps in many of the institutions, which means we have stopped a group of people to enter into the colleges. ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು, ನೀವು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಗೆ ಬರಲೇಬೇಡ್ರಿ ನೀವು ಅಂತ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಬರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿ, ಅನದರ್ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್. One is shortage of faculty, and the second is inability to work properly. Two important things. ಎಷ್ಟು ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಒಂದು, ಎರಡನೇದು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಬಟ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, inability. And government policies now is also very important here. They are not attracting the well qualified young blood into the teaching, because lots of job opportunities are there actually, but positions are vacant. ರೆಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ NET ಆದವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, PhD ಆದವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಟ್ ಅನ್ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ದೇ ವೋಂಟ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದ ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ದ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಅವರು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಲೋ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಗ್ರಾಜ್ಯುಯೇಷನ್ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ 3,000ಕ್ಕೆ 5,000ಕ್ಕೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಡೈಲಿ ವೇಜಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದುಡಿಯೋರು ಅವ್ರಿಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ದುಡಿತಾರೆ, ವಿತೌಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್. ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣ ರೋಜ್ಗಾರ್ ಯೋಜನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ 236 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಇದೆ ಒಂದು ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ. ಯಂಗ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, 236 rupees per day ಇಂಟು 24 ಮಾಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಆದರೆ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ, BEd ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. ದೇ ವೆರಿ ಲೋ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ. ಹೋಗಲಿ, ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಲಿ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು NPS ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದೆಯಾ? ಏನಿಲ್ಲ. ನೋ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಅಟ್ ಆಲ್, ನೋ ಎಮ್ಯುಲಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ನೋ ಪರ್ಕ್ಸ್, ನೋ ಇನ್ಕ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್. Every year they have to fight for their salaries, increments. So this is the situation. Then how to resolve it? Underpaid teachers will not work properly. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ UGC ಅಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಬಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ದುರಂತ ಇದೆ, ದುರಂತ. ಅದು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ UGC ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಹೈಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಬಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟಾದರೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. Okay, the structure of higher education is itself a problematic now. How? Yes, there is a over centralization. A university has to work in many capacities. ಬರೀ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ರಿಸರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಮಾನಿಟರಿಂಗು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ನಡೆಸಬೇಕು. ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆರ್ ದೇರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ bureaucratic structures are also very problematic. Somebody will come from government to sit and act. Somebody will be elected, somebody will be selected. ಒಬ್ಬರು ಬಂದು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಎಬ್ಬಿಸಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ. ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ಫರ್ಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, 3 ವರ್ಷ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿ ಅನ್ನೋಂಥದ್ದು ಆರ್ಡರ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈಗ. until and unless further orders ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾಳೆನೇ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಆರ್ಡರ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಎದ್ದು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು. So such situations, how can you resolve the problems? And the professionalism which is missing. Everybody wants to become administrators nowadays. ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರೂ ತಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಚೇರ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಆಡಳಿತ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆಡಳಿತದಿಂದ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು, ಇದು ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಮೇಲೆ ಹೇಳೋರು. ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಟು administer something. So this is also a structural problem actually. In fact, I had written a letter to the state government. ಇದು ವಿಶೇಷ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ವೈಸ್ ಚಾನ್ಸಲರ್ಸ್ ಆಗೋರು ಒಂದು ಸೀನಿಯರಿಟಿ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ನ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವ್ರ ಸೀನಿಯರಿಟಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸಿಗಲಿ, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಸಿಗಲಿ, ಥರ್ಡ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಸಿಗಲಿ, ಫೋರ್ತ್ ರಿಟೈರ್ಡ್ ಆದರೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಫಿಫ್ತ್ ಸಿಗಲಿ, ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೋ, ಇವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೋ, ಅದು ಕೂತ್ಕೋ, ಸೀಟ್ ಹಾಕೋ, ಅದು ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವುದು ಬೇಡ, ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ವಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಒಬಿಡಿಯೆಂಟ್ಲಿ. But government has not replied anything to my question. Mostly ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಯಾರೋ. Yes. So such structure is itself a problem. The next, accreditation. Everybody is now thinking of NAC. ಇಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಇದ್ರು ಪಾಪ ಅನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ NAC ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಏನು. NAC is an accrediting body. After having the accreditation, you get many benefits. Benefits in terms of monetary, that's very important. Funding is being done with the help of accreditation. But till today, just 40% of the higher education institutions in India have accredited by NAC. ಇನ್ನೂ 60% ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳು, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳು NAC ಹೋಗೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. And those are the 7 criteria. And what about the international level? ಸರಿ, ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ NAC ಅಪ್ಪ. ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಲೆವೆಲಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಫ್ಯೂ ಏಜೆನ್ಸೀಸ್ who will accredit you, like International Accreditation Organization, International Council for Higher Education Accreditation, International University Accreditation. We can think of these accrediting bodies as well, so that we can claim we are working at global level. And the building cultural synergy. ನನಗೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಪ್ಯಾಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಎಸ್, we need to develop them, because unless and until we develop the culturally sensitive and cultural intelligence citizens of tomorrow, we cannot grow in a mankind in future actually, because there are a lot of issues, lot of challenges, like civil wars are there, terrorism is there, environmental issues are there, and even the materialism and economic weakness which are happening now and then. ಸೆನ್ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ದೇಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ದೇಶ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಶ್ರೀಲಂಕಾ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಶ್ರೀಲಂಕಾ ನಾವು? ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಸಚ್ ಕೇಸಸ್, unless and until we develop the younger generation who are culturally sensitive, who are cultural intelligent, that's what CQ is, cultural quotient. EQ, IQ, we know, isn't it? Intelligent quotient, emotional quotient. Now it is also very important to have cultural quotient. The world is behind now. And the meaningful coexistence is also very important. ನಾವು ಬೇರೆ ಧರ್ಮೀಯರ ಜೊತೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಜೊತೆ, ಬೇರೆ ದೇಶದ ಜೊತೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಬೆರೆತು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಲೈಫ್ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ವಿ ನೀಡೆಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಡ್ ಅಮಂಗ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್. And the very important aspect is knowledge creation. The generation is not just taking the knowledge, it is also creating it. How? By having discussions and activities. Why can't we have social discussions wherein our younger generation can contribute significantly for the new generation of knowledge? So that is not required. So hence our teaching learning processes must have more and more deliberations, more and more discussions. ತುಂಬ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು, ಮಾಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕೋ ಅಷ್ಟು, ಬಟ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು provide opportunities for students also, so that they can think and give their values and ideas also. Sharing is also very important. So that is what knowledge creation is, which is not happening in most of the colleges and universities. And professional bodies, yes, every professional body is different from country to country. If I get BA from Karnataka means I may not work in US, I may not work in UK or Australia. There is another certificate which needed to be taken. So why can't we have professional bodies wherein a certificates or the masters will be given which is valid in different countries also. So it is also one of the challenge we are facing in present generation, especially in MBBS. If you have MBBS in India, we can't work directly in US. There is another course which needed to be done. So such professional bodies have to be developed wherein they can guide the different countries. And some key aspects like data security, we are providing all the data. Students who data ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, teachers data ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಆಧಾರ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಹೋಯಿತು, ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಹೋಯಿತು, ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಹೋಗಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಟ್ಯಾಗ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. Now easily anybody can hack the data and get our personal information. It is not at all a big task. Hacking is very easy. So data privacy is being lost, and social and ethical challenges are there because of this online education system. And there are some trends in the higher education. These are the challenges. What trends we are having now? Yes, learning from everywhere. It is not learning from classroom. Learning from everywhere. Everywhere means it may be from anybody, it may be from any website, or it may be from any source. So that is what learning from everywhere. So that approach has to be developed in the higher education. And we need to change ourselves first. ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಇದೆ. How can I help beyond the classroom is also one of the important aspect which needed to be considered by all the teachers. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಇರಲಾರ್ದಾಗ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡಬಲ್ಲೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮುಖ್ಯ. ಅದು ನೀವು ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟಲ್ಲಿ ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರೋ, ಅಥವಾ ಆನ್ಲೈನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರೋ, ಅಥವಾ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀರೋ, ಅಥವಾ ಮೇಲ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀರೋ, ಹೌ ಲರ್ನರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಲಿ ಯು ಆರ್. So that is learn from everywhere. That is one aspect. Then second important aspect is there are few institutions in the world, they are giving offline classes as well as online classes in different places also. The one best example is the European Business School of SA, which launched a bachelor's degree course in 2021, and they combine the campus of Barcelona, okay, and the Berlin and Shanghai students. Here the students can come and learn in the classroom, and here they can learn through online. So the live experiences and different experiences can be obtained in two different places, but whatever they learn, they have to come and discuss in the Barcelona. So which means there are some institutions which are providing space for different place learning also. So such courses can be very good courses in future, and it's a true hybrid learning course. ಯಾರೋ ಮೈಸೂರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ಯಾರೋ ಗುಲ್ಬರ್ಗದಿಂದ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಂದ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲೇ ಶಾಲೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಥಿಯರಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕಲೀರಿ. Just a mode. So such courses may come in future. This is one of the trends. The second important trend is active learning. We know that actually there are a lot of information there in the internet. ಒಬ್ಬ ಟೀಚರ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಲಕ್ಷ ಪಾಲು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಹೌದಾ? ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೇ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಯುಬಿಕ್ವಿಟಸ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್, ಸರ್ವವ್ಯಾಪಿ ಕಲಿಕೆ. ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋದರೂ ಕಲಿತಾ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ, ಯು ಗೋ ಎನಿವೇರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್, ಯು ಲರ್ನ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಹೌ? ಮೇ ಬಿ ಬೈ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಫೋನ್ ಆರ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿ ಆ್ಯಪ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್, ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಯು ಇನ್ ದ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೆನ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್. ಒಬ್ಬ ಟೀಚರ್ಗೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಅದೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನ ಈಗ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಬಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಅಬಿಗಸ್, a Russian educationist who has done a research on how people forget. ನಾವು ಕಲ್ತಿರೋದನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಮರಿತೀವಿ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಮರಿತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ he has found out that the 100% of information will be there if we immediately recall. And after 19 minutes, see, after learning the content, if you leave for 19 minutes, you forget almost 60% of the information, unless and until you recall it. ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಕಲ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ರಿಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ ಇದ್ದರೆ ವಿ ಲೂಸ್ ದಟ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್, ವಿ ಫಾರ್ಗೆಟ್ ದಟ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್. 31 ಡೇಸ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬರೀ 20% ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಈಗ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ತಿಂಗಳಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಏನು ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ನೆನಪಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಯು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ 20% ಆಫ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ವಿಚ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ unless and until there is the spaced learning. Spaced learning means learning in different spaces, different intervals, recalling it, recognizing it. If that could be done, then naturally we can retain the learned information for longer duration. So the technology is helping us. ಯಾಕೆ ಇದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂದರೆ, ನೀವು ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ರಿಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ನ ಕಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ, ನೆನಪು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ, ಮೆಮೊರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯುವರ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಲಾಂಗರ್ ಡ್ಯೂರೇಷನ್. So that kind of learning environment we need to develop among the students. This is a trend now. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಲೆಕ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾವು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. That may not be useful for all students. And the third one is diversity in higher education. One of the challenge ಇದೆ, ಇದು ಒಂದು ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಆಗಿದೆ ಈಗ. This is one of the trend actually. Every education institution is clearly saying that what kind of accommodation it has provided to the different groups of students. So that is one of the trend, so that we can recognize the educational value. All the accreditation bodies are also expecting the same thing. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಅಕ್ರಿಡಿಟೇಷನ್ ಬಾಡಿಗಳು ನೀವು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕೂಡ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್, ವಿಚ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ whenever you plan your curriculum, whenever you plan your teaching, these things must be considered. That is the trend. Then fourth one is mental health awareness. Totally neglected area in higher education. Health education ಬಗ್ಗೆ, mental health ಬಗ್ಗೆ we won't bother at all. We always think that students come to the classroom with an intention of learning. No. World Bank report 2020 has rightly mentioned that students will never come to the classroom with an intention of learning. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕಲಿತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಬಂದು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. It is the duty of the teacher and curriculum to make them to learn. The kind of infrastructure we provide, the kind of motivation we give in the classroom is important. So what to be done actually? So because of that hectic content, ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆಯಿಂದ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ತನಕ ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ ತನಕ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಲಿತು ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡಿಸಾರ್ಡರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ದ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್, ಮೊಬೈಲು, ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ಟು, ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪು, ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ಗಳು ಬಳಸಿ ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ಲೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಅವರ್ ಟೆಂಪರ್ unknowingly. So hence there are a lot of disorders. Even the American College Health Association has rightly mentioned that there are 60% of anxiety in the students and 40% depression. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿ ಕಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಹೋದಾಗ this thing will come into the picture. So that we have to orient students before the course, mid of the course, and even at different intervals, so that they can maintain their mental balance in the learning process. So that is very important. And the emerging technologies, we cannot deny. We cannot run away from these technologies. Like artificial intelligence, online assessments, augmented reality, virtual reality, and MOOC, massive open online courses. Even the government of India has already launched Swayam platform, wherein you get lot of courses. PG and UG courses will be held. So these things needed to be incorporated in the higher education. As I told, ಈಗ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಪೇಪರ್ ಇದೆ, B.Ed ಇದೆ, M.Ed ಇದೆ. ಆ ಪೇಪರ್ ಸ್ವಯಂಲ್ಲೂ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಸ್ವಯಂಲ್ಲೇ ಪೇಪರ್ನ ತಗೋತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಪೇಪರ್ ಆನ್ಲೈನಲ್ಲೇ ಕಲಿಬೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಯಂಲ್ಲೇ. ಆ ಪೇಪರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿಯೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತವೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗೆ. ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರೆದಿರೋ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ಸು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ದೆನ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಅವಾರ್ಡೆಡ್ ದ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ. ಮುಂದಿನ ದಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ UGC ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಭಾಳ ದಿನ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ UGC will release a order shortly saying that at least one of the course material must be developed in MOOC form. So you will, in future, you will be teaching to a student who is residing in Jharkhand, maybe from Tamil Nadu, maybe from US. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಪೇಪರ್ನ, ಬಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್ ಆಗ್ತೀರಾ, ಇಡೀ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳ ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ನೀವೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. You will be a global teacher in future. So that is the new trend which we are having nowadays. Already Central University teachers will matter. Even we have also applied. And curriculum trends, more focus on closing the skill gaps. Try to develop more and more skills in the curriculum rather than just content. ನಮ್ಮ ಕರಿಕ್ಯುಲಮ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟೆಂಟೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ನೀಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ನಾಲೆಜ್, ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಡಿಮಾಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ನೌ. And enrollment of international students, it is also a trend now. The reputation of the institution will be assessed based on the admission of international students to your college, to your university. But see, in India we are having 49,348 foreign students, and most of them are from Nepal. Indian higher education market ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ನೋಡಿ ನೇಪಾಲ್, ಅಫ್ಘಾನಿಸ್ತಾನ್, ಬಾಂಗ್ಲಾದೇಶ್, ಭೂತಾನ್, ಸುಡಾನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕಪಕ್ಕ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಗಳಿಗೆ. ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನಾವಿನ್ನೂ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟಲ್ಲಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆ ವಾಲಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹುಡುಗರು ಅಂತ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟುವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಫಾರ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ಡಿಗ್ರೀಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕೋರ್ಸಸ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ದ ಫಂಡ್ಸ್ ದೆನ್? I told that there is only 3% of GDP which is investing in higher education. Then what to do that actually? We can have some alternatives like research and development funds. We have it at global wide. There are some institutions, there are some agencies which are providing research funds, infrastructure development funds. Why can't we go for them actually? Then second one, online and distance courses. UGC has rightly mentioned it as that every institution can have distance and online courses if you are having A grade in that. So that is what accreditation becomes an important element. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ A ಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ನೀವು ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ರೂಲ್ ಇದೆ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಶಾರ್ಟಾಗಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಅರ್ನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ದ MOOC ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ and even the international collaborations. So such initiatives will help us in fundraising. The reason why I added is recently the Johns Hopkins University, which has been collected fund from a billionaire businessman, that is Michael Bloomberg. He has donated 1.8 billion rupees, $billion, not rupees, to Hopkins Universities. ಹಾಗಾದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಲುಮ್ನೀಸ್ಗಳು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಚಾಲೆಂಜಿಂಗ್. ಅಂದರೆ ನೀವು ಒಳ್ಳೊಳ್ಳೆ ಅಲುಮ್ನೀಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಪ್ರಪಂಚಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರಿಂದ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ತಗೋಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ತಿರುಳು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. It is also one of the trend now. That technology has become an industry now. You won't believe actually, in India there are edtech companies. These are all the edtech companies of India. Byju, Vedantu, Ruby, okay, Camp K12, Upward, QMath. These are all the edtech companies. The turnover of these companies is 3.2 billion. You won't believe, 3.2 billion just in 1 year, in 2022. ಅದು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಈಗ. ಅಂದರೆ ಎಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಆ್ಯಪ್ಗಳು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಈಗ ಅಂತ. ಒಂದು ಮಗು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಒಂದಿನ ಹೋಗದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಏನೂ ಬರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈಗ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? ಬೈಜು ಆ್ಯಪ್ ಇದೆ, ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದೇ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟಿಂದ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಹೋಗ್ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಅ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನಾವು. ಸೊ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಎನ್ಕ್ಯಾಶಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್. ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಂಪನಿಗಳು ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಹೂ ಈಸ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಕರಿಕ್ಯುಲಮ್ ಡಿಸೈನ್. ಲೆಸನ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ಗಳು ಕಂಟೆಂಟು ನಮ್ಮ ಟೀಚರ್ಸೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ ಬರೀ ಎಂಜಿನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಅಥೆಂಟಿಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಸೊ ಸಚ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕೇಸ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಸೊ ಟುಮಾರೋ if your students or next generation students will be in a position to develop those apps, means they can earn like it. So that has become one of the trend. And even your individual colleges may also have some apps. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಸೇರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಥವಾ ಕಂಪ್ನಿನ ಹೈರ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಆ್ಯಪ್ ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಂಟೆಂಟನ್ನು ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಅದು ಸಿಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಇದೆ. So this is what the new trend we can think of. And the roles of teachers are changing significantly. Classroom teaching is just one aspect. We need to record, we need to edit, we need to shoot ourselves, we need to use the software, we can develop the softwares also. By name Imran in Gujarat, you may be knowing this actually. A primary school teacher who has developed more than 40 apps for primary school students. Still he is working. So this is the trend now. Why can't we can do that? And even the cross-border delivery of higher education. That's what I am mentioning actually. Moving beyond the borders. Why can't we give the courses to foreign students as well without visiting our institution? So that is also one of the trend, and language is very, very important. In how many languages you prepare your content is the need of the hour. ನಾನು ಬರೀ ಕನ್ನಡ ಗೊತ್ತು ನನಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಡೀ ಪ್ರಪಂಚಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇಫ್ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಇನ್ ತಮಿಳ್ ಹೋಗಿ ತಮಿಳ್ನಾಡು and ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್. ಸೊ ಆ ಥರದಲ್ಲಿ language, widely spoken languages will be considered more in the next generation. So every teacher has to work beyond the limit of his own language as well. That is also another thing. And tuition fees and cost of living are very important. If you are expecting the foreign candidates in your institution means, yes, what is your tuition fee? And many of the countries, they are expecting more fees actually, especially the European Unions. Europe countries will go ಕಲಿಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ you have to pay more. And there are countries actually, Germany, France, Italy and Spain, they are having the zero or low tuition fee. ಇದು ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬೇರೆ ದೇಶಗಳಿಂದ ಹೋಗಿ ಈ ದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿತೀನಿ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ತಗೋತೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಫೀನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. They want good students from the different parts of the country or the globe, and even the low tuition fee. And few fellowships are also being given. So this kind of tuition fee and the cost of living are also playing an important role in getting the degrees from different countries. And the reputation of an institution. The university ranking system is there. Back to ನಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳಾಯಿತು, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ರ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು QS ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ರ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಮ್ಯಾಸಚೂಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಇದೆ, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಬ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಇದೆ, ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಫೋರ್ಡ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಇದೆ, ಆಕ್ಸ್ಫೋರ್ಡ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಇದೆ. ದೇ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಕಮ್ in 1 to 5th rank. You take any ranking actually. Why they are doing like that? Why they always stand high in the ranking system? Means there are some criteria they are following very rigorously. ಯಾಕೆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಹೈ ರ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಬರ್ತವೆ ಅಂದರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ರೆಪ್ಯುಟೇಷನ್ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಅದರ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸ್ 40% ಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಇದೆ. ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯೀಸ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮಗೆ 10% ಇರುತ್ತೆ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಟೀಚರ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಇಸ್ 20%, ಸೈಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟಾಫ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ 20%, and international outlook including students and staff is 10%. So these are the criteria they are following to grade the institutions. And second one is the Times Higher Education, another ranking system actually. Teaching 30%, research 30%, citation 30%, industry income, how they are getting the income from different industries 2.5%, and international view is 7.5%. Again the same kind of universities you find: Oxford, California Institute of Technology, Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge, MIT. This is one of the example. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೋಡಿ ಟಾಪ್ 1000 ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸ್ಗಳಿವೆ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತೀಯ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಬರೀ 4. ಸೊ ರ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಸಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ 100% ಇಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಕೋರ್ ಆಫ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಬ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್. I'll come to the last slide. So here, the 1000 rank is having 3.14 scoring. ಅಂದರೆ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿನ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳು ಆ ರ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಸ್ಕೋರ್ ತೊಗೊಳಕ್ಕೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. 100 out of 100 ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ, ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ, ವಾಟ್ ವೇ ವಿ ಆರ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ our institutions. And multidisciplinary courses, we need to have it in the future actually. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ NEP already suggest ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, we need to have it. And peace, security and democracy. That's what we are discussing about. Whatever we learn, wherever we may be, but think that we should live in a harmonious and peaceful. That is very important. And what kind of sensitization we need to develop among learners is very important. Okay? And research which needed to be internationalized, and there are cross-border higher education ensuring quality guidelines which has been already prepared by UNESCO. And these guidelines needed to be updated and adopted by all institutions in our country. That is one of the trends. And the rest of the things which I have already mentioned in the morning session, that unless and until we think and act, these challenges will remain challenges forever. So I feel these are all the aspects which are really helping us in understanding where we are and where we are standing in the world's arena of higher education. And if we plan properly according to the needs, according to the trends and according to the innovations, definitely we can bring the changes in the higher education sector, which really impacts not just Indian higher education system, which impacts the entire world's higher education. Because Indian higher education system is the third ranked higher education system in the entire world. So such a huge population we are producing every year. It is our own responsibility to produce it in a more qualitative manner. So in the morning also I have suggested them that at least for every session there must be a rapporteur who can report something, and at the end of the session and end of this seminar they can read out on those implications and suggestions will be sent to the government as well as the other higher order organizations, so that they can also think and act. So what debate is going on in this country, isn't it? And naturally it will help in preparing the policy document also, and that document will be very useful for you also to provide it to the DAC. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Anything else? Any questions from the audience? Or any suggestions you can give? Because we have discussed a lot of questions and trends, suggestions can also be given. Yes, sir.
Sir, first of all, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Lot of very important points which we would not have maybe thought of that came out today and have given us a lot to think about. Two of the points that you spoke about, I felt I wanted to bring it up to understand the connection better. You spoke about flexibility in courses, so full-time courses, part-time courses, and open and distance learning. But you also spoke about quality. So both of those things I feel in the current scenario need to be focused on. Like when we switch into this flexibility of online courses and MOOCs especially, how do we ensure that the quality of the courses is not compromised? Like the points which you brought out in terms of accountability and measuring the whether there is equity and diversity, also access, right? Because when we talk about online, like you said, EdTech is the fastest growing industry now, but if it's an industry, then how is it providing education still as a public good? And how is it giving access to all sections of the society?
Okay, I'll come to the second question directly. After LPG, 1992, isn't it? Globalization, liberalization and privatization, which has rightly considered education as an industry. Earlier to that it was a service, right? But still it is a service, but the mode of communication which we do the service we provide to the stakeholders will be considered as in terms of industry. That's the reason why the perks and emoluments have been increased for teachers if they work more, one thing. And second thing, if you give a good quality of education in terms of content, in terms of counseling, in terms of teaching, that will be considered in a very different set. Okay? These edtech companies are doing the same thing. They're considering that we provide best platform to you, wherein you can nurture your talents, you can solve your queries, and we make you to learn in an easy manner. For that, they prepare the content, they provide all the resources which are needed for the learners, and any lacunas will be there, any doubts will be there, they will clarify with an expert. So hence they consider it as a service with an industrial platform, right? And the first question is, yes, you have rightly mentioned that there are two important dimensions of education. One is flexibility and the other is quality. They are the two sides of the same coin. We have to consider the quality aspect. Naturally, we have to give the flexible element also. What is learning then? According to my flexibility, if I learn, if a system is providing opportunity means that is a quality. And I cannot make sure that every learner has to come to a place and they will learn the things. No, that was the older system. And now what we are thinking is, as much as student-centered learning platforms will be provided for the learners, so that they can learn according to their wish, their time availability, and even the locality. So that flexible element is also come under quality. Hope I got the point. Yeah. Yes, anybody? Okay, thank you.